I need to talk to the civil engineers of Texas. What are you building your bridges out of that make them haunted by, specifically, livestock-human hybrid cryptids? Answer me in the comments. I need to know. For science. I'm sure you've all heard of Goatman's Bridge before. You know, the one in Denton, Texas.
Goatman! You feeling that? Feeling the Goatman energy? Man, I'm dancing on your bridge. It's my bridge now.
Holy shit.
You hear that? If you want me off this bridge, you're gonna have to kill me.
Holy shit.
You're gonna have to look at the way I dance on it. I disrespect your bridge, Goatman. If you can't spell your name, then this bridge is officially mine.
No, it's not.
They'll tell legends of me here.
Well,
my bridge.
Yeah, that one. But have you heard of San Antonio's Donkey Lady Bridge? No? Oh, you are in for a treat then, because for once, this cryptid is real. Welcome to Ladies Fright. I'm your host, Joan. Trigger warning. Mentions of disfigurement, domestic abuse, child death, and animal abuse. The Donkey Lady began as any typical looking human woman would. Nothing reportedly equine about her, until she was part of a tragedy, which we will get into later. From that trauma, her face became elongated, and her fingers and knuckles fused together, giving her appendages at the end of her arms a hoof-like appearance, turning her into a fusion of woman and donkey. Surprising to absolutely no one, there are several versions of the Donkey Lady tale explaining how she got to this state. One say she is a straightforward fusion of a human and a donkey. One story says a woman lived with a pet donkey she loved dearly in a shack in the woods. The donkey bit one of the neighbors, and to get revenge, the neighbors set the lady's shack on fire with her and the donkey inside. One version says the heat from the fire along with the close living quarters fused the woman and the donkey together, creating the Donkey Lady. Another has the lady and her donkey escaping and running into the Medina River, where their souls are fused, and that is why they haunt the bridge over the river. One version just removes the use of fire altogether and has the neighbors pushing both the donkey and a woman off the bridge into the river. The more popular version of the mythos gives the lady a bit more characterization. One even gives her a name. For clarity's sake, I will go by the name given in one of the stories I came across, which they called her Isabella. There are two time periods that are most commonly stated these events occurred. Either sometime in the 1800s or the 1950s. Very different time periods, but honestly, when you hear the inciting incidences, they could have happened at any time in any farming society. Isabella was a wife of a farmer who owned livestock like goats and donkeys, and they had several children together. The family lived on the outskirts of San Antonio. For whatever reason, Isabella was beefing with the neighbors. Some tales have it because she was of mixed Mexican-Spanish race. Another has it because the neighbors were trying to steal their prized donkey. One night, the neighbors come to the farm with violent intention. Isabella's husband comes out of the house, instructing Isabella to stay with the kids. In front of the whole family, he was shot down and killed. The assailants descended upon the house and set it ablaze. In an alternative tale, this is not the neighbors, but a random stranger who comes upon the farm. The stranger sees the donkey tied up outside of the house, and he begins to beat the donkey for some completely unknown reason. Isabella's husband is able to chase him off, only for the stranger to return that night to set the house on fire. In the most popular version of the story, the violent party is not an outside party, but instead coming from inside the house. You see, in this telling of the story, the farmer was not a loving husband and would have fits of rage between consuming alcohol. Drunk and enraged, he trapped Isabella and the children inside of the home. As I'm sure you can guess by now, he set the house on fire with his family inside. The children did not make it, but Isabella did. Forever changed. In all the cases where the story has a house burning down, the fate of the Donkey Lady is the same. The heat of the fire melted her face, making it look elongated. her fingers charred off, leaving what used to be her hands to look like blackened hooves. Her wails of pain began to sound like brays of a donkey. Once she managed to escape the blaze, she ran into the river to try to alleviate herself of the burning pain. The cool water is what is said to have stopped the melting, but also what made the disfigurement permanent. Once in the river, Isabella never resurfaced. Well, at least it is said that her body was never found. Since becoming a cryptid, the Donkey Lady has been seen all over the area of and around San Antonio. Local children will claim they will know where the Donkey Lady used to live and dare each other to go past the house. Other sightings have been of her in the woods trying to find those who have wronged her. However, the most notable sightings come from Donkey Lady Bridge. Over the Medina River, Old Applewhite Road is connected by Donkey Lady Bridge, which I went to college in Vermont, and in Stowe, there's this place called Emily's Bridge with a haunting attached to it. But the bridge is only called Emily's Bridge when referring to the local legend. That's not its legal name, and not a name you will find when you look it up on Google Maps. The same goes for Goatman's Bridge. If you search it on Google Maps, it will show you it is listed as Old Alton Bridge. So, I was very surprised that Donkey Lady Bridge is the name of the bridge. Call it stubbornness? I wouldn't, but some stories I saw did. But the spirit of, or maybe the cryptid of the Donkey Lady has not left Texas. Some believe she remains due to the betrayal of her husband and her need to enact revenge on him and other men who drink or abuse their families. Others will say she is lost in grief for the loss of her children. She has been rumored to appear in many places around San Antonio, but as mentioned before, the spot she is best known for is Donkey Lady Bridge. Donkey Lady Bridge was built in 1917 and was once crossable by vehicle, but today is part of the Greenway Trail system and is just for pedestrians. Those who have walked on the bridge have claimed to hear hoofbeats and braying, as well as seeing hoofprints in the mud of the banks of the river below. However, I saw some articles claim that the hoof sounds is more likely the sound of the river below, and the braying was an actual donkey that was loose in the area at one point in the 1960s, which may also explain the donkey tracks. It could also be the tracks of other animals. To be honest, I don't trust paranormal hunters and their knowledge of zoology. Would think by now we could learn what a vixen call of a fox is, but I guess not. Unsurprisingly, people have been trying to contact the Donkey Lady for decades, and they have come up with a slew of different ways to do so. Back when you could drive over the bridge, one way she may come out is if you came at night and parked your car with the lights off. Sounds like a great way to get your car hit by another car and not a cryptid, but I digress. Another, which would make it a lot more clear to other drivers you are on the bridge, was to honk your car horn 3 times while calling for her. People have reported after this ritual of having broken windshields, hoof-shaped dents in their car, and it should also be said, even with the damage done to the vehicles, no one has been reported to be attacked by her. But, like any good urban legend, there does not seem to be any actual written reports of these encounters and resulting vandalism, and they all seem to be claimed from friends of a friend of a friend. First-hand accounts mention feeling watched and hoofbeat sounds that we mentioned previously. Isabella has woven her way into local San Antonio culture. Of course, she is a boogeyman figure for children. At some point, there was a phone number given out claiming it would connect the caller with the Donkey Lady. On the other side was just some static, but honestly, it would have made me sleep with the lights on for a little while when I was a little kid. Often being given attributes like La Llorona, parents may warn children to be home before dark so the Donkey Lady doesn't get them. She's also used as a threat against DV or drunk driving, which is a bit ironic considering there is a beer inspired by her. If you want to try to see her for yourself, you can walk across the bridge. Just remember, trailheads close at sunset. Be respectful to the ghosts, the land, and the park workers. This whole Donkey Lady story reminded me a lot of that scene in Pinocchio where the boys are sent to Pleasure Island, and as they misbehave, they are cursed to be turned into donkeys. So I looked into whether changing into a donkey specifically had a meaning. Turns out the metaphor is probably what you think. According to the Disney fandom wiki, the donkey symbolizes stupidity and foolishness in Italy, which is where Pinocchio was written. The boys were acting like jackasses, so they got turned into one. So I don't think this case relates back to our San Antonio one. Typically, when I see there are multiple versions of a paranormal origin story that have vastly different and vague details, I tend to believe it's not real. However, this time I was wrong. The donkey lady did exist. Yeah, I know, hard to believe. And that is because even though she was real, she was not a cryptid. In Live Oak, Texas, 40 minutes north of Donkey Lady Bridge, lived Doc Anderson. In the mid-1940s into the 1950s, she owned Doc's Little Dude Ranch. She trained horses, drove hay rides, and raised donkeys. Her love for working with the ranch came from her childhood, where she worked with her father and other cowhands at a ranch in Fort Worth, Texas. Doc loved her animals, and it was said that she would spend money on their food rather than her own meals. At some point, Doc and her husband, Oscar, were living in a rented home, but for reasons unclear from what I read, the couple and their animals lost their home and moved into the woods. Locals recall her from the 60s when she would always be wearing a bonnet and red lipstick, and her skin was described as very pale. At some point, she lost her arm to diabetes. Reports said she would come out of the woods with 5 or 6 donkeys in tow and try to give them water from the fire hydrants. Just to sum up what residents may see is a pale lady with bright red lipstick and a bonnet leading a herd of donkeys with one arm. If you didn't live in the area or know about Doc, you would have some questions. She was even said to have pink donkeys, which I had to look up. This is a donkey with pink skin, white fur, and blue eyes. They are very rare, but not actually pink. Leading all these donkeys around with such a signature look led her to the title of the Donkey Lady. Though Donkey Lady was only one of her legendary titles. She was also called the Skunk Lady. Doc was said to have the ability to coax out skunks without being sprayed. Neighbors would ask her for her help, and without fail, she would get Pepe Le Pew to come out from under their decks and sheds. I saw one place say she actually kept some skunks in the basement and attics of the house that she rented. Doc was terribly mistreated by the neighborhood teenagers. High schoolers would cut the leads the horses and donkeys were on at night, leaving Doc to roam around trying to find and gather them back together. She had her prized horse Mohawk with her while living in the forest. He was said to have traveled with her to California to act in Western movies. I will mention, based on the article that this was said in, it's unclear if Doc or Mohawk or both were acting in the movie. Doc was said to have owned Mohawk through her childhood, which once again I will bring into question since horses' average lifespans is 25 to 30 years, and Doc was middle-aged at this point, but either way, I digress. Mohawk was out in the woods, and a group of boys found him. They shot an arrow, which landed in the horse's neck. Doc was able to find him, but the horse ended up succumbing to the injury. Much of what we know about Doc Anderson comes from neighbors' accounts of her. Her husband, Oscar, was said to have served in the military, and even though there was an attempt to find out more about her through military records, nothing came out of it. The last time locals heard of Doc's condition was in 1982. At some point, she'd been turned over to the Bexar County Social Services and committed to a nursing home. There was no mention of where her animals ended up or what became of them. It is believed that Doc passed away sometime in the 90s. The city of Live Oak has put out a call to action asking for any information on Doc Anderson. With such little known and little documentation about Doc, it may be hard to understand why her life became so morphed into that of the Donkey Lady. Doc was a figure who stood out in her community. She was going to be the talk of the town, no matter what. Kids would dare each other to ride past her house. Reminds me of all those stories in suburban America of picking the one old woman who maybe didn't have the best attitude and calling her the town witch. One of the versions of the Donkey Lady tale focuses on a woman who who loved her donkey so much she risked bodily harm to protect it. Doc loved her animals and cared for them. It is not hard to make that connection. The donkey lady's key characteristic is being deformed. Doc wore bright lipstick, which was striking against her pale skin. She wore ill-fitting clothing and lost her arm and appeared from the woods. To children, and let's be real, a lot of grown adults in the 1950s, they would see her appearance as odd and monstrous. She looked like a woman, but not like the other women in society. In a game of telephone about the strange character in Live Oak known as the Donkey Lady, it's not far-fetched to see how this tale of this cryptid was made. Even though I can understand why she was the inspiration for this tale, I still find it really cruel. Doc Anderson's dream was to care for her equines. Due to her finances, that dream had to be changed into finding a way to survive with her animals. In 2019, an estimated 12% of unsheltered homeless people in the United States owned pets, and that number rises to 25% when considering the numbers from a 2023 annual homelessness assessment of unhomed people. Just to be clear, being homeless does not mean unsheltered. Many of those without permanent residency may find shelter with friends, family, or in their cars. Many shelters do not accept pets, and 22% of respondents to the National Alliance to End Homelessness said they avoided shelters because they don't allow pets. According to the Animal Welfare Institute, there has been more of an effort in recent years to promote pet-friendly homeless shelters. There are other possible solutions too, like partnerships with animal welfare organizations on allowing for the boarding or fostering of pets in the interim while their owners find more permanent living situations. And of course, prioritization of pet-friendly, affordable housing programs for anyone who needs it. A link will be left in the description for the Animal Welfare Institute website. On the page linked is a map with a directory of safe havens for pets. From the webpage, quote, "This nationwide directory of sheltering resources contains listings from all 50 states and is searchable by zip code," unquote. The website also includes additional resources to help those in need, or if you are in the position to do so and want to help those in these situations, you can consider donating to those resources. I have to wonder if Doc was given the assistance she needed, or at the very least was not tormented by her young neighbors. Would this be her legacy? Turned into a monster, and on top of that, a monster that will always be a victim to abuse in one form or another. I hope more is learned and confirmed about Doc Anderson. I want to end this on a lighter note, but I really don't know how. The best I can do is suggest maybe we look out for each other just a little bit more. Help those when we can to prevent any more of these tragic cryptid stories. But what do I know? I'm just some lady talking about some frights. Ooh, okay. That was a rough one. Funny enough, I went into this and I thought it was going to be kind of short, and then I was looking for a way to end it, and I just couldn't help thinking about Doc and her plight, and I forget what I searched, but that number came up about people who are unsheltered and who have pets, and it broke my heart. I have a dog that we adopted recently, and she had to be given up due to a homelessness situation. And I'm very lucky to be able to have this dog despite their situation, but it does suck to know that someone had to give up their pets, because she was part of multiple pets, in order for them to have a reasonable living situation. So yeah, that really sucks. I guess I could point out why I have a Christmas tree to just keep it lighter. I record these things well in advance, so actually, I know there was nothing in the background of all my December episodes. This is being recorded literally the day after Thanksgiving. Actually, no, it's not even the day after Thanksgiving. It's like 2 days after Thanksgiving. So that's when Christmas decorations go up. So now you're going to have to deal with this. Hopefully it shows up in the December live stream, so it makes a little bit more sense. But yeah. Thank you for joining. To do a special shout outs, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you like, comment, and subscribe, you are 10% better. That's right, you are 10% better, 10% funnier, 10% smarter, 10% better looking? Oh, ooh, okay. But if you don't like, comment, or subscribe, you stay average, so sorry. But yeah, hope to see you in the next one. Bye!